Do you need assistance in discovering what you truly want in your life? Are you feeling unhappy and stuck and are clueless how to change that heavy feeling? The Laura Longley Show delivers powerful ways to work through common problems and stuck points. This fun and unique weekly show invites some of the most creative and transformative practitioners and authors, hypnotherapists, EFT practitioners, acupuncturists, and astrologers, among others, to activate your wildest dreams. Get ready to tune in to be more of who you truly are. Laura and her guests will take your calls and help you bring your brilliance to a greater brightness. Get ready to snap to a whole new level in your life with joy leading the way. Say yes to that inspired you and goodbye to your stuckness for good. Now, here is your host, Laura Longley.
Good morning. I'm Laura Longley, and you're listening to The Laura Longley Show on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience ways to get unstuck and live an inspired life full of meaning, purpose, and happiness. Each week on The Laura Longley Show, we have some of the most gifted practitioners, speakers, and authors helping you to make authentic and lasting changes in your life. Today, I'll be talking with Dr. Thomas Bean, author of The Buddha's Way of Happiness. Tom will be sharing what happiness is and how you can be happier no matter what's going on in your life. Plus, Tom will be giving away a free copy of his book later in the show, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But first, I want to remind you one more time, and this is the last time I'm going to do it because we're getting to the end of January, that there was a change in the show scheduling. I'm no longer doing the show on Tuesdays. I'm only doing on Transformation Talk Radio the Monday show, which you're listening to right now. But I have added a show on Sunday mornings on Blog Talk Radio that is a call-in for advice kind of show. And that is on Blog Talk Radio. You can find it by searching for The Laura Longley Show, and it airs on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, and 4 p.m. in the UK. So I'd love for you to join me on the new show. Excuse me, I got a little tickle in my throat this morning. So we're going to get started with doing our healing meditation, as we always do at the beginning of the show. And today we're going to be sending love and healing to people who are suffering from self-doubt. So this is for anyone who is maybe feeling like they're unsure of their direction in their life, or maybe they think they know what it is, but they don't believe in themselves enough to follow it. But anyone suffering from self-doubt in any way, and it could be you. So you can do it for yourself and everyone at the same time as well. And what we want is we want to send them love and healing energy and help them to know that all the wisdom is within them already and that they have an important place here on earth. So let's begin by taking a deep breath in. I release that. One more deep breath in and release it. And thank you for participating in that. I also want to remind you something else that is coming to an end at the end of January is 31 Days of Authentic Change Wisdom. This is where you can go to the website, thelauralongleyshow.com, and in the top banner, you can sign up to receive an email every day for 31 days, and each day you'll get a practice to do that will take 15 minutes or less that will help you start shifting your life. So if you're feeling stuck and you need to make changes in your life, but you're not really sure how to go about that, going through this for 31 days will definitely create a change in your life. So if you're interested in that, you need to get signed up before the end of the month. So I'm going to be taking that down on Saturday. So you have the rest of the week to go and get signed up to receive that for 31 days. And one more announcement. I need some guinea pigs for my new Authentic Business Wisdom program. I'm getting started with a new process that is partially based upon the ideal career discovery program that I've done for many years, but with a twist for people who are business owners or who want to be business owners. So if you have a business in a healing or helping profession and you need some help with it, or you think you want to start a business in a healing or helping profession and you could use some guidance with that, email me at laura@thelauralongleyshow.com, and I'm going to be offering some free sessions and also some discounted sessions so that I can get a chance to practice this a little bit and you could get some guidance in the meantime. So again, if you're interested in that, if you have a business or you want to start a business as a healing or helping professional, email me at laura@thelauralongleyshow.com. One more thing I want to share with you before we get to introducing Tom today is last week I did a psychic reading with somebody that had not been referred to me. And I'll share with you later in the hour how I found this person. And it wasn't great. And what it did for me was it reminded me that I do have the wisdom within me. And sometimes I do need somebody to help me get in touch with it. But when somebody's telling me something that doesn't resonate, I need to trust my own feelings about it, not what somebody else is telling me about it. And so during our light bulb moment later in this show, I'm going to share more about that story and what I learned, and then share with you how you can also get more in touch with what's right for you and when it isn't resonating with someone who maybe is supposedly an expert. So be sure and stay tuned for the light bulb moment towards the end of the show. Well, finally, I'm ready to introduce today's guest. Dr. Thomas Bien is an award-winning author, speaker, business consultant, and the Buddha's Way of Happiness author, drawing on a diverse collection of experiences as a corporate director, collegiate football player. Oh my gosh, you know what? I am so sorry. I totally did not update the bio from last week's guest. And I realized as I'm reading it that this is not Tom's bio. I will tell you what I know about Tom. Tom is a psychologist, Dr. Thomas Bien, and he has written a book called The Buddha's Way of Happiness, which really is about how we can be happy in the present moment and that we don't need to be worried about our external circumstances in order to be happy. And Tom, I totally apologize, and I want to welcome you to the Laura Longley Show. Let's welcome Dr. Thomas Bien to our show today. Hi, Tom.
Hi.
So since I totally goofed up and didn't update the bio that I was reading, would you just share a little bit about your background for listeners?
Well, I'm a psychologist in private practice here in Albuquerque, and author of 5 books and a teacher. I travel around internationally teaching about the things that I do, and a lot of it to other psychologists and therapists of various ilk, but sometimes as well to general audiences and about, especially about mindfulness.
And thank you so much for sharing that. And again, I really apologize. So I want to jump into...
I was enjoying thinking of myself as a football player.
I'm going, okay, wait a minute. I know this is last week's guest. Yeah, did they even have a football team at where you went to college? Because you went to a seminary, right?
I went to both. But yeah, there were definitely football teams at Rutgers, and where I did my undergraduate at Princeton, where I went to seminary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Benny, our engineer here, was so wonderful. He went and printed off your bio for me from the internet, but I think you've pretty much covered it for us.
Okay.
Thank you, Benny.
Hey,
I appreciate
I'm
that.
here for backup. It's all good.
It's a team effort here, even if it's not a football team.
Yeah.
Good for us. So Tom, The Buddha's Way of Happiness, the book that you've written, it really resonated for me. And you and I talked last week, and I've been exposed to some of these concepts already. But what I would love for you to start with talking about is really what is the Buddha or a Buddha? Because we think of Buddha as being a person, but in reality, it's a way of being, isn't it?
Yes, it's a way of being. It's a state of consciousness. There's a little story that illuminates that. Someone met the Buddha on the road and thought there was something very special about this guy, and he didn't know what he was, but he asked him, something like, "Are you? What are you? Are you an angel?" And the Buddha said, "He's not an angel." Are you a saint? And the Buddha said, "No, he's not a saint." "Well, what then?" And the Buddha said, "He said that I am Bud," and that's a Sanskrit root that means awake. So Buddha is first of all someone who is awake and aware, who sees things clearly in the way they really are.
So any of us can be a Buddha.
That's exactly the point, yes. The whole point of Buddhism is that this is what you can be.
Exactly. And I love that because it's something that is attainable. It's not like we have to think of this person as being a saint or an angel or anything else. It can be just like us.
It is attainable. To become a perfect Buddha, I think, is probably something rare.
Yes.
But all of us can have moments of enlightenment and learn to have more of those and be walking steadily in that direction.
I love that as our goal or as our direction. That's perfect. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to go ahead and take our first break. I'm Laura Longley, and you're listening to The Laura Longley Show, where authentic change takes flight. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about how is the Buddha's way of happiness different than how we think of happiness here in the West. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you feeling stuck? Do you want to be free from fears and doubts and finally feel good about yourself, but you just don't know how to get there? Dr. Schaub's Accelerated Breakthrough Program provides you with the tools and solutions to go beyond your limitations and achieve self-empowered confidence. Call for your free phone consultation at 866-903-MIND. Visit cellularwisdom.com. That's cellularwisdom.com.
Are you ready to move past limiting beliefs and unconscious obstacles that are holding you back from financial prosperity? Do you want to be free from debt and that feeling of being disempowered? Mary Jane Allen is a financial healer and joy creation specialist who uses her unique set of tools included in her financial healing process to help her clients move past those beliefs and fears. For more information and to contact Mary Jane, visit her website, manifestyourlifedream.com, and begin your financial healing process today.
Laura Longley is on a mission to remove stuckness from your life for good and replace it with happiness. Tune in Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com for The Laura Longley Show, where authentic change takes flight. Say yes to that inspired you and goodbye to your stuckness as Laura and her guests deliver powerful ways to work through common problems in this fun and unique hit show.
What if the world doesn't function the way we've been told? What if we truly can bend the laws of physical reality? What if we can end limitation? What if weird were the coolest thing you could be? And what if it's time for a totally different reality? Are you ready to create it? Are you ready to dream as big as you dare? Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything in my life changed for me. This is your invitation to step into something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Newton, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Gandhi, Galileo, and Aristotle all knew to be true. It's not about the answer. It's about being the question, always. It's about truly being you, whatever that looks like, and changing this world. Is now the time? Start by signing up for a free video series at beingyouclass.com. That's beingyouclass.com. What if you are the gift and the change this world requires? BeingYouClass.com.
Tune in to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen each Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This hit show will have you thinking outside the box and riding the wave of infinite potential. Join Colette on the Higher Self Network, inspiring listeners to shine their brilliance and ensure success while roaring with laughter as they recognize the humor of the giant cosmic joke. Visit thetruthisfunny.com.
We're back on the Laura Longley Show, and my guest today is Dr. Thomas Bien, the author of The Buddha's Way of Happiness. And before we talk more about the book and happiness, Tom, I'd love for you to share how people can find you, how they can find the book, and I know you also have some workshops coming up.
Right. Well, you can find the book probably most easily on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. And if you want to visit my website, it is mindfulpsychology.com. Mindfulpsychology.com. And on there you can also get a free download of the first chapter of the book. So you can check it out at no cost or obligation. You can also find out what is coming up and where I'm going to be if you go on to the events part of that website.
Very good. And I know that you said that you do have a few talks coming up soon.
I do. Here in Albuquerque, I'm teaching a workshop on mindful therapy. This is primarily for psychologists and counselors and psychiatrists and so on. And that's on Friday the 14th. It's an all-day workshop. And you could call the New Mexico Psychological Association at 505-883-7376, 505-883-7376, or simply look for the New Mexico Psychological Association online. And then on Saturday, March the 8th, I'm teaching a course in mindful living at the University of New Mexico Continuing Education Department, which you can find online at ce.unm.edu, ce.unm.edu, or I'm sure if you search for University of New Mexico Continuing Ed, you can find it. And the beginning of April, I'll be teaching in Florence, Italy, and Palermo, Italy.
Wow.
And that I'll be putting that information on my website very soon, and that's courses for psychologists. So if you want to get some CEUs and at the same time get some wonderful travel experience, you can look for that.
Yeah, that would be great. I'll have to get, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a master's level therapist, but I'd love to get the CEUs in Italy.
It's a great place to be, yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to the book, can you just give us, so that we can understand what is different about the Buddha's way of being happy than what we might think about here in our Western culture?
I think it's a difference primarily of emphasis. There's a lot that's the same. There's a lot of overlap, but there's a difference, very distinctive difference of emphasis. And I think the emphasis is in Buddhism is on appreciating what is already there, the practice of deep contentment. So not only for your house or your car or your family, things like that, but also for the fact that for your heartbeat, also for the fact that hopefully your eyes are working, opening the world of form and color to you. Your ears are working and opening the world of sound to you, and so on. So the number of things that, number of causes for our happiness that are available in any given moment are astronomical in number. As we learn to just check in and be in touch with that, it's more about contentment than about acquisition.
Right. And, and you talk about contentment, and as you were describing those things, what it brought to mind for me is gratitude, being grateful for those things.
Absolutely.
that already exist in our lives that
Right.
actually create that contentment for us.
And the emphasis is on things like contentment or gratitude, because even though in some spiritual teachings we can focus on manifesting things that we want to have in our lives, which is, that's a fine thing to do, I believe. And at the same time, it's a potential trap in that it can keep our consciousness focused on what is lacking,
right,
and keep us stuck in a sense of discontentment and unhappiness.
So let me ask you this, and this didn't come out of the book. This is just my own curiosity, and I know that you do identify as a Buddhist, although as we talked about offline, that's a narrow definition. You're much more than that. But I believe that in the Buddhist tradition, that one of the things that what's the word I want? That one of the goals is to try and remove desire. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. It's to try and remove inordinate desire, certainly, because desire or its opposite, aversion, causes disturbance in the mind. And when the mind is disturbed, then it's difficult to really appreciate what is present, as we were just talking about.
Right.
And you can just see this very easily for yourself if you just watch your mind for a few moments and see where it goes, and realize what a tremendous relief it is when you just bring yourself back to an object like your breath and come back into the present moment in some way. It's like stepping out of a movie theater in the middle of it, and you're all tense from the drama that's being enacted, and then you step outside for a moment and you go, because you realize it's just flickering images, really. And life itself, from a Buddhist perspective, could be seen as a collection of flickering images, so to speak.
Right. So it's kind of also the idea of that in the present moment, when we bring ourselves back to the present, the majority of the time, everything is okay.
Things are pretty good right now,
Right.
It's a lot of our suffering is certainly rooted in our thoughts about the past, or in our fears and worries about the future. But the present moment is most often quite good.
Right. And that also leads me to kind of my follow-up question with asking about desire, because where I get hung up with this concept of removing desire, and you did qualify it with inordinate desire, but in my experience, desire for something to be different is what motivates us to change and grow. And so if we remove that, then what would motivate us?
Well, I think it's a little bit paradoxical, but say if you want to change and grow and you want to transform, that is certainly a healthier desire than a lot of the things that we long for.
True.
And it's good. It's good to have that sense of direction, to have that intention. But at the same time, we need to be aware that it can interfere with the very thing that we're trying to get to, because it disturbs our consciousness to be wanting anything too much. There's a metaphor in the Buddhist tradition about this, is that finding enlightenment is like a person who's lost on an island, and he searches high and low, and he's trying to find the rumored buried treasure somewhere on the island. And he's searching and searching and searching. And then one moment he looks up and he realizes that the island is very beautiful. And he goes, so his searching, in that sense, was actually interfering with his finding. And sometimes things can function that way. And so even positive desires can block our progress sometimes.
And that definitely resonates for me. I totally get that. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think about that. And this is related to another Buddhist concept of letting go of attachment to outcome. And because if we do want something, and it's a positive sort of thing, like let's say growth and change, and we get an idea in our head of how that's going to show up, or what it's going to look like, then we might miss it showing up in a different way, just like that metaphor you shared.
Or if you set about to become a Buddha, that's a positive goal to have, of course. But from where we all are now, we can't really fully understand what a Buddha is. So we could have an idea of Buddha that interferes with us finding the real thing. There's a wonderful story about Ananda, who was the Buddha's attendant, who, after the death of the Buddha, they wanted Ananda to attend this big conference that they were going to have. But the only ones who were allowed to attend were arahants, were fully enlightened ones, and Ananda had never achieved enlightenment. So as this conference is approaching, he's struggling and straining because it's important that he be there. And he's trying to become enlightened, and he's trying to become enlightened, and he's working, meditating day and night, straining and struggling, and then he tells himself, "I have to become enlightened. I have to become enlightened. I have to become enlightened." And then finally he says to himself, "But I'm not enlightened." And in that moment he becomes an enlightened being who can attend the conference. But it was because of that letting up, easing into what is already there, which takes a kind of intention, but it is in a way void of struggle and strain.
Right. And this has been really a huge lesson in my own life because I've always been one of these people who has, I've had goals and I've been driven, and and really in the past year and a half, it's been in my face a lot. And I think I've learned it to a very large degree, although I still fall back into bad habits. But I can't there are certain things you cannot make happen. You have to allow them to happen. And that's this concept as well, right? That but purely by trying to make them happen, it won't happen.
Yeah, in fact, I would actually say most things.
I think I would agree with you. Having become enlightened on that point, I would agree with you with that. Well, it's time for us to take another break. I'm Laura Longley, and you're listening to The Laura Longley Show, where authentic change takes flight. You can find me on Facebook at The Laura Longley Show and at thelauralongleyshow.com. When we come back from the break, we're going to give away a copy of Tom's book, The Buddha's Way of Being Happy, or the Buddha's... my speaking is not so great. Buddha's Way of Happiness. And so if you're interested in getting a copy of the book, stay tuned and you'll get your chance to call in. We'll be right back.
Did anyone teach you to be a parent? What if there were tools that could make your job a whole lot easier? Glenna Rice invites you to be the questionable parent you truly be in a dynamic teleseries designed to empower parents to know that they know and give you the awareness required to create ease and joy between you and your children. Check out glennarice.com to learn more and to book a private session. Or dial 415-235-2807.
Get inspired. Create the life you desire with internationally known radio host and motivational speaker, Sue London. Sue inspires millions of people to overcome difficult or traumatic situations in their lives. People feel hope, courage, and are ready to move forward after hearing Sue speak. Book motivational speaker Sue London for your next event at AskSueLondon.com. That's AskSueLondon.com.
Tune in to The Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit jenroyster.com for more information.
Are you ready to give your home a fresh look but don't want to do the work? Help is a phone call away. Kathy's Handy is a full-service general contracting company specializing in home improvement, remodeling, and repairs. Kathy's Handy are specialists in kitchens, baths, fireplace makeovers, and finish carpentry, and they partner with other amazing specialty subcontractors needed to complete any job. Friendly, energetic, and dependable with an impeccable reputation to get the job done while keeping you as comfortable as possible during the transformation of your home is the hallmark of Kathy's Handy. Call Kathy now for a free estimate. 206-715-8126. That's 206-715-8126. And visit kathyshandy.com for a complete view of possibilities for your home.
Called the Oprah of radio by her listeners, award-winning host Dr. Pat Baccili is blowing the doors off of traditional talk radio. Get ready for an energizing delivery and powerful interviews with leaders in the field of human potential. Dr. Pat's fresh, new perspective on living life full out has catapulted her show to the top of talk radio. Tune in and Dr. Pat will help you thrive instead of merely survive. Visit thedrpatshow.com. That's THEDRPatshow.com for listening times in your area.
We're back on the Laura Longley Show, and my guest today is Dr. Thomas Bean, author of The Buddha's Way of Happiness, and I actually said it correctly this time. And we're going to give away a free copy of Tom's book to the first caller right now at 800-930-2819. So if you want a copy of The Buddha's Way of Happiness, you can call in right now at 800-930-2819. So Tom, I want to talk a little bit about the concept of suffering, because I know there's also a saying, and I don't know if this is a Buddhist saying, but it gets attributed to Buddhism around, and I might not get it quite right, but pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I know that suffering really is the antithesis of happiness. So say a little bit about suffering and how we create suffering in our lives.
Well, so the whole motivation for the Buddha in trying to find the path of liberation was to understand human suffering and to find the way out of it. So suffering is very important. You can't simply ignore it and become a liberated person or be truly happy. That's called denial or other things. But,
right.
But
suppression
it's
or
really,
repression or something.
It's not a healthy way to go about living. But I think of suffering as you pay attention to your suffering so you learn from it and learn to walk in the other direction. It's like walking south by keeping the North Star at your back. But to keep it at your back, you have to know just what it is and just where it is all the time. And the Buddha's analysis of suffering is that suffering is based on the fact that reality is a certain way, and we want it to be another way. Reality is actually this process. It's a process. Well, that's the first thing to get. It's a process. Everything ultimately is not an entity. We are not entities. We are processes of flowing, changing life, and everything around us is that. And so with our attitude, sometimes we're trying to dam the process of change, and we can't do it. We can't really prevent it. One way to think of it is because everything is changing all the time. One Zen teacher said, when you look at the coffee cup that's in front of you, see it as already broken. See it as already broken. Now, this is not, I think, an invitation to pessimism or cynicism, but it's a deep understanding that things are changing all the time, and they're going to change whether we like it or not. So we can't really hold on to things and prevent that change. And it's that effort to try to hold on to things, keep them the same, instead of really getting with the flow. Everything is flow. What we need to do is find a way to get with the flow and enjoy the process of wondrous becoming that is the actual nature of ourselves and everything around us. By resisting, we cause suffering, and that can be in the form of desire. Things are this. I want things to be this way, and they're that way. It can be in the form of aversion. I don't want things to be the way they are. Or in the third thing is just delusion, which is not seeing things clearly and not seeing things the way they actually are. I think one way to think of acceptance, by the way, is that it's acceptance up to this moment. It's acceptance of the situation that you're in, up to right here and now.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that you become passive and you can't take action to try to change things. That would be a great mistake. But that your action should be rooted in wisdom, and it should be have the sense that you'll do your best, but still things won't always work out the way we would prefer them to be, and that's what can give us a lightness of being around life and in our consciousness, and help us let go of the struggle. We act, but we don't struggle.
And I like, again, focusing on lightness. And you and I were talking at one of the breaks about lightness in Buddhism and how the Dalai Lama is really a very good example of that. And, just thinking about that for myself, I feel it in my body when I feel light versus dragged down or heavy. Mm-hmm. And it definitely feels better. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, one of the consequences of the Buddhist way of seeing things is that everything is interconnected and not separate.
Right.
And because of that, the only thing that really makes any sense is love and compassion. Any other attitude really is, like one hand getting angry at the other.
Right, right.
You can't do the same things. And when you have someone who's an adept at loving kindness meditation hooked up to an MRI, what you see is that the parts of the brain that become active when the person is focusing on love are the aspects of the brain that are associated with joy and enthusiasm. So isn't that interesting? When you're focused on loving kindness, what you get is joy and enthusiasm. But just think of the face of the Dalai Lama, if you ever seen him, how happy he always looks. And that kindness is the center of his practice. So joy and happiness can flow from love, which is really a way of simply aligning ourselves with the way things actually are, instead of being caught in delusion.
So let's talk a little bit about specifics for people who are listening that want to have more contentment, have more happiness, have more joy. What are some things, what are some practices that they can actually do that will help lead them in that direction?
Well, the first thing I'd say is going back to a very ancient sutra in which the Buddha taught us to focus on the breathing. So to just sit for a few moments and watch your in-breath and your out-breath with some interest in the process, and noticing especially that it actually feels good to breathe in and breathe out. And you can say the word in silently to yourself on each in-breath and out silently on each out-breath, and just spend an enjoyable period of time without forcing yourself to do things you're not yet ready to do. Spend an enjoyable period of time watching your in-breath and your out-breath and smiling gently. And then you have that as a basis. Say if you do that in the morning for some period of time, you have that as a basis to come back to throughout the day.
Yes.
So you're stuck in a traffic jam, you're waiting in line at the bank, or you're waiting for your computer to boot up. There are thousands of moments like that when we're just going to be rehearsing our worries anyway. we might as well just come back and enjoy breathing in and breathing out and feel the relief of letting go of all of that mental busyness that we get so trapped in.
Right.
So I think those are a couple of simple things. And sometimes just notice when your mind is caught by something that's positive and nurturing and healing. We were talking off air about the fog, and that the fog is something that you can look at and appreciate and has a sense of mystery about it and so on. So if you catch that and you catch that glimmer of joy in your mind about appreciating the fog or whatever it is, you can actually extend that a little bit. Stop and breathe, and breathing in, I'm aware of the fog. Breathing out, smiling to the fog. Practices that come from Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. And extend the moment of pleasure and deepen it by simple things like that occur every day. And by doing these things that with some dedication and intention to them, you're actually beginning to transform your consciousness ultimately at the base so that you don't get so trapped in your worries and your regrets, and your whole consciousness becomes brighter and lighter and happier and more appreciative of the life you have and more content.
Yeah, I think those are great ways to really start moving in that direction, and very, very doable. So thank you for that. And we're coming to the end of our time together, so I would love for you to once again, Tom, just share where people can find you and where they can find the book.
You can find me at mindfulpsychology.com. And on that site, there's also a free download of the first chapter of the Buddha's Way of Happiness. And I will be teaching my workshop called Mindful Therapy here in Albuquerque on Friday the 14th. And so if you're a counselor or a psychologist and you're looking for credits, you can call the New Mexico Psychological Association, or you'll find them online. The phone number is 505-883-7376, 505-883-7376. Or if you're not a counselor or something, I'm teaching at the University of New Mexico Continuing Education on Saturday, March 8th, a course called Mindful Living. And you can find University of New Mexico Continuing Education online, but it's ce.unm.edu. And then I'll be teaching for psychologists and such in Italy at the beginning of April, and I'll be putting that information up on my website.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Tom. It was really an interesting conversation and definitely gave me some things where I can sharpen my focus with some of my practices. So thank you so much.
A pleasure to talk with you.
Great. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll share this week's light bulb moment, which is about trusting yourself over the advice of other people. I'm Laura Longley, and you're listening to The Laura Longley Show, where authentic change takes flight. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
To discover there's always something more you wish he'd say.
Join the Pacific Northwest EFT Tappers at the 4th Annual Tappers Gathering this March 1st at Bastyr University. Tapping enthusiasts from across the region will be sharing healing stories, learning different EFT applications, and forging a strong community. This event raises money and awareness for continuing EFT tapping scientific research. All net proceeds go to our 501c3 nonprofit conducting a study showing how EFT can alter gene expression. Bring your cards and information for a fulfilled day of networking and inspiring one another. Visit www.nwtappersgathering.com or call 360-661-6877. www.nwtappersgathering.com or call 360-661-6877.
Tap into your I am energy to discover who you truly are and who you always have been. Dawn Smith offers a simple yet profound and life-changing way to discover your I am energy that is hidden beneath the toxicity caused by choices we made consciously or unconsciously prior to today. This internal perfection is not an idea, a theory, or some vague notion or concept. On the contrary, it is beyond the grasp of the brain and its intellectual interpretations, as it lies deep within the language of our hearts. Visit iamenergy.ca.
Laura Longley is on a mission to remove stuckness from your life for good and replace it with happiness. Tune in Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com for The Laura Longley Show, where authentic change takes flight. Say yes to that inspired you and goodbye to your stuckness as Laura and her guests deliver powerful ways to work through common problems in this fun and unique hit show.
Tune in each Tuesday at noon Pacific and 3 Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com for The Dr. Julie Show, All Things Connected with Dr. Julie Kroll, featuring weekly segments with David Eisen and the Chakra Sound System. Each week, you will journey through infinite possibilities, expand into social potential, and find beautiful beginnings where endings leave off. Changemakers from around the world will explore what's emergent about the environment, relationships, health, the arts, education, and the evolution of consciousness. Visit thedrjulieshow.com. Listen to this. Visit thedrjulieshow.com. Listen to the Yo Andrew News Talk Show every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. More info where to listen? www.yoandrewnts.com/listen. Don't get your message lost in the mail. Email us with this address, yoandrew@yoandrewnts.com. How about tweet Yo Andrew at AndrewTweetGeo? Taking a picture is easy. Instagram us today at YoAndrewNTS.
We're back on the Laura Longley Show. Today I was talking with Dr. Thomas Bien, author of The Buddha's Way of Happiness. And you can find out more about Tom at mindfulpsychology.com. And ways to get more information on getting unstuck and moving forward in your life, you can find me on Facebook at The Laura Longley Show, and I post there multiple times a day, and we have some great discussions going on there. I'd love for you to find me there. On Twitter, I'm Laura Longley, SHO, and of course, always at thelauralongleyshow.com. So at the beginning of the show, I was talking a little bit about this experience I had where I did a reading with a psychic who it was not referred to me by anybody. And so I didn't have knowledge of this person beyond what I had seen online. And it really was not a very good experience. And, I can share a little bit about why it wasn't a good experience. But basically, he was not the primary thing that started out was he was not good at connecting with me. And, I've done readings with other psychics, and I have a couple of friends who are psychics. And it's really important that there be that connection between you and the person doing the reading. And he had no bedside manner whatsoever. And there was a sense of being rushed throughout the entire thing. It was like, if I wanted to ask a question, I got a one-sentence answer. There was no expanding on information, and it really did feel like this sense of urgency. Hurry up and ask all your questions and, don't waste time kind of thing. And there were things that he got wrong. And so there was some good evidence right there that, okay, so if he is incorrect about this, then is anything that he tells me viable, or is everything suspect? And he also used just a lot of kind of cliche kind of stuff where it was like the kind of thing that you might be sharing a problem you have with an acquaintance, and it would be like a some sort of platitude they would give you, like, oh, it'll be fine, or, oh yeah, this, do this or do that, or this will happen. And just really nothing where I felt like there was some additional knowledge. However, what happened that kind of threw me for a loop, where there were a couple of areas in my life where he made kind of dire predictions about what was going to happen. And after it was over, I went away from the whole experience going, okay, I'm not impressed, and I don't really feel like this guy knows what he's talking about or knows what he's doing. And yet those two places where he made these dire predictions, I held on to, and it really upset me and really kind of threw me for a loop. And what I found really interesting is that I was conscious that that was happening. I was saying to myself, okay, this guy didn't know what he was talking about here. He didn't know what he was talking about there. So why do I believe him about these two things? Because everything is suspect. Because there are things where I really know that he was incorrect. And yet I didn't seem to be able to let go of it. And thank goodness what happened is a day and a half later, I had a session with the energy healer that I work with. And she's like, yeah, you let that guy, he's in your space. So we're just going to clear him out. And so we did some clearing around it, and then I was fine. But what it really highlighted for me was that when I know that this is not connecting for me, then I have to trust myself. I am the one who knows what's right for me. I am the one who has the internal wisdom. And yes, sometimes it is helpful to have a practitioner of some sort kind of shine the flashlight on things. So, a psychic or an astrologer or a tarot reader can sometimes kind of get in the crevices where you maybe are having trouble seeing and illuminate that. But if what they illuminate isn't resonant for me, then I need to believe myself, not this other person, even though they may be in this case, self-proclaimed expert at whatever it is. And after this experience, I had several dreams in the nights following that really were about telling me to trust myself when there's a conflict between what feels right or true to me and what someone else is telling me. So I really did get some validation from my higher self or from source or God or whatever word you like to use through these dreams. Yeah, Laura, you know what's right. Don't listen to this other person. So as our light bulb moment, let me just share how you can go about learning to trust yourself and your own guidance over that of others when it's appropriate. And the first thing is to notice when you think that someone else might know better than you do. And, as I said, there are all times that we can use guidance from other people or help getting in touch with that wisdom that we already have. But pay attention to what your gut reaction is to what they are telling you. If you have a negative reaction, look at whether it's because what they said to you is true, but it was something you didn't really want to know or you didn't want to hear, because that can happen. Or are you having a negative reaction because you know this just isn't true for you? And it might take a little bit of trial and error to know the difference between those two things. But practice, that's what this is about, is practice. And then do what your gut says is right for you, regardless of what this other person has said to you. So I want to give you a couple of announcements before we head out today. So first of all, I want to remind you that I am now doing a show on Blog Talk Radio on Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. in the UK. And you can find that on Blog Talk Radio just by searching for The Laura Longley Show. And it's an all call-in show. So if you have questions, you need some advice, I would love for you to join me on Sunday mornings with that. Wrapping up the 31 days of authentic change wisdom. You can still sign up to receive that mailing through Friday. I'll be taking it down on Saturday. So if you think you might get some value out of these daily practices to help you start shifting your life, be sure and sign up this week. And you can get that by going to thelauralongleyshow.com. At the top banner, you'll see the sign up for that. And I need guinea pigs for my new Authentic Business Wisdom program. So if you have a business in a healing or helping profession and you need some help with it, or you think you might want to start a business in a healing or helping profession and could use some guidance, email me at laura@thelauralongleyshow.com, because I really could use some help with trying out this new process and seeing how it goes. And you will get some free coaching by doing that. I want to thank my guest today, Dr. Thomas Bean, for sharing such great information on how to be happier the Buddha's way. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to the Laura Longley Show with me, Laura Longley. I had a wonderful time. Please join me every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on KKNW in Seattle, WBLQ in Rhode Island, or TransformationTalkRadio.com. And don't forget the new show on Blog Talk Radio on Sundays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Laura Longley Show, where authentic change takes flight. Tune in each Tuesday on TransformationTalkRadio.com at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and on KKNW every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and everywhere on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Join Laura and her friends as they help you create the life that you truly deserve. For more information about Laura, her services, and amazing tools, visit TheLauraLongleyShow.com.
Laura Longley is on a mission to remove stuckness from your life for good and replace it with happiness. Tune in Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com for The Laura Longley Show, where authentic change takes flight. Say yes to that inspired you and goodbye to your stuckness as Laura and her guests deliver powerful ways to work through common problems in this fun and unique hit show.